you'd love to take a flyer and throw around some money and see what happens, and see if you get some big artists to come in here.
And we're back to the Deep Fryer podcast. Pleased to be joined today by Dean Clarke, General Manager of the South Okanagan Event Center Complex. Welcome, Dean.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Dean's job title is actually a bit longer than General Manager. Dean, could you please go over it with us? Exactly what do you do and where?
Well, first and foremost, I'm the General Manager of the South Okanagan Event Center and the Penticton Trade and Convention Inn. There's a couple other facilities that we manage, but also I'm responsible for some venues and sort of business development in Western Canada for a company called Oakview Group, specifically Oakview Group 360, and I'm a regional vice president for that company. Okay. And now, Dean, last year, Spectra, who you used to work for, was acquired by a new group called OVG 360, headed by Tim Lywicki. Is that correct? Yeah. So some of the moguls or stalwarts in our business formed a company. Tim Lywicki, Peter Luco, and Irving Azoff. And Irving Azoff is like the manager of the Eagles. He's pretty much, he was the president of Live Nation. So having sort of those three people in the industry come together, pretty amazing company. So pretty excited that they purchased our company, acquired our company. It's like they're exciting and aggressive, which is what you need in this industry sometimes.
Lywicki came from was it the Toronto Raptors for a while? Yeah,
so he was the president of AEG Live for a long time, and then he moved over and was the president of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment for a while. Okay, let's get back to your buildings. The buildings that you manage, really at the bottom of it, they're economic drivers for the city of Penticton. Am I right? Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
explain how that works.
We don't really sell anything. We sell, economic economic impact. That's really what we sell. And we have a bold set of buildings that we manage. Specifically, the Trade and Convention Center are over 65 years. Pretty amazing building for 60,000 square feet, and the amount of economic impact that it delivers. And then you take our South Okanagan Event Center, almost 6,000 seats, and lots of amazing events and special events and hockey and championships over the years. I mean, we've had some. It's funny, I'm a little gun shy sometimes when it comes to how much we should be bragging about the economic impact. We had a counselor in Penticton for a little while who thought that economic impact was like voodoo science. So every time I brought it up, I got sort of like, hey, well, that's not. But, we're probably talking, in the tens of millions of dollars of economic impact that these facilities drive every year. And not only are they economic impactors, but they're also a recycler of money. So where you get like the V's themselves, they're an amazing team, and they play during the sort of the time of need, from September to May, and we're recycling money in our community because we're a tourist community. So you give me your $10, and I give the next $10 over to Danny, and we sort of share that $10 for the next 3 months. So it's a recycler of money, and it's a driver. Fortunately and unfortunately, I live out of town. I don't live in Penticton. And so I'm really proud when we have big events or special events and see that train of red lights driving back to the northern part of the central Okanagan. That really makes me proud because I know there's lots of money being dropped into Penticton, and I love working here.
Okay, I want to move on from the numbers and cents stuff, but I have one more question about the numbers and cents, or the dollars and cents, pardon me. There's a new hotel going up across the street from the SOEC that's long been sought as a way to pump up business for the convention center. How's it going with the hotel, and are you already capitalizing on in any way yet?
I mean, in Penticton, we've had great hotel partners, first and foremost. Had amazing hotel partners, the Lakeside, the Ramada, specifically those two. All of the motels on the beach area, all amazing people, and we can't do it without them. But to have a facility that, they've closed the road down right beside. In fact, now the properties are attached. Now we really can't, air quotes technically say that they're attached, but certainly having a hotel with 120 rooms within a minute's walk is making a significant difference for our ability to sell the complex. And I could go into many details on how that works, with the way meeting planners work and the digital surveys they give us, and but that, along with sort of the CVB person, this Karen Davy person, that's working for our tourism. So we sort of go out now, we're representing sort of the destination, not just the building. If you go out there and you're marketing just the building, it's a red flag. It's a red flag for meeting planners. They're like, oh God, now I'm going to have to, get all of the ancillary stuff or the auxiliary stuff after my event and the hotel. Like it's a red flag. So now that we've organized those sort of two things, we're seeing a big difference. In fact, the trade center is the one that's recovered the quickest. People want to meet, people want to get together. And this year they're continuing to rock it. So we're really excited about what that can mean for us long term. So
back to your last, you said you talked about the CB. That's the new convention bureau, correct?
Yeah. So CVB. So it's the Conventions Visitors Bureau. So it's basically a position where her job is strictly there to market the destination with conventions and meetings in mind. She's done a great job getting up to speed and working with all the stakeholders in our community and obviously with our sales team.
Okay. Now, at the bottom of all this, we're talking about entertainment here. So let's have some fun with this. You have your hands on in the artist booking process, right?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So let's walk us through. Let's say hypothetically Nickelback announces it's going on tour next spring, and how does that work? So how do you learn about that? Do you bid, or how do you decide to bid? Take us through the process.
Well, if we hear that Nickelback's going on tour, or they've announced it, it's probably too late. So we probably missed the boat. Agents, managers, promoters, they're the ones mostly with the information, along with our company and our general managers sort of across North America. We kind of get a feel for the lay of the land when it comes to artists and what they're doing over basically a 4-year period. It kind of cycles in 4 years. A lot of it has to do with the American artists and the media purchasing ability in the presidential election year. So so what you'll see is the year before the presidential election, the American artists and the international artists will tour inside the United States. And then they get out of the United States for the following year because they can't buy the media, because the Democrats and the Republicans and everybody buys it all, and they can't get elbows in or edge their way in. So we sort of see a bit of a down year, and this is what this year is like. But then it cycles up, and so we'll probably have 2 or 3 solid years, and then it goes down 1 year. And so, but our information comes from our general managers, comes from our company, comes from the agent relationships that we have. Agents will phone us up, and they will take holds in our buildings. And the reason they're taking holds is because the artists have said to their managers, I need to work. I want to work. And depending on what their cycle is, and where they've been and where they've hit markets, they will then determine whether they're going international or Canadian, or whether they're coming to America or they're the United States, or so it's usually the agents first who sort of reach out. Sometimes they'll reach out to promoters like Live Nation or Jim Cressman, for example, or Ron Sakamoto's team at Golden Gold, and they'll reach out to those companies, and then they'll reach out to us. So we're all kind of working together, and they're sort of placing holds throughout our buildings, first holds, second holds, and then we really sort of narrow it down. Oh, is this for one specific artist? And the artist usually takes precedent over sort of the promoters who have the dates. But it can get a little bit of a traffic jam in some of the months, for sure, and certainly the promoters. And then there's all kinds of opportunities. We try and be as transparent as possible in Penticton with our promoters. We try and treat them, they gotta make money or they don't come back.
Yes.
You gotta treat the artists well so they come back. So we try and be as fair and as transparent as possible with the deals that we'll be able to offer the promoters or the artists or, and so it goes from there. But we also have a couple conventions that we go to, sales conventions or booking conventions. One's in February called Polestar, and then another one's usually in September in Nashville called AIBA. And there's a lot of information, so it sort of builds up for those weekends, and a lot of people are sort of deciding on tours and talking about bookings. And with that said, each and every year, depending on the number of festivals in the United States, country or rock or stadium tours, we sort of work around those stadium tours as well. So, and those tours, the big fairs that, certainly, the fair in Calgary, what am I thinking of? Calgary Stampede. Yeah. That's sort of, we work around those dates. Okay. We usually pick up a show here or there. And it looks like we're going to probably pick up a show from Stampede this year. So we'll see. Yeah.
Cool. Do you ever find yourself in a bidding war, or I guess you wouldn't want to find yourself in that position, but does that happen? Or?
Yeah, I think it happens a number of times. I think that, specifically if we're bidding against, the communities around us.
Yes. I wanted to ask you what the most successful act you had in Penticton is, but I guess if you measure that by dollars and cents, that's one way to do it, but I don't know if that's how you measure success. So I'll ask you, in your opinion, what's the most successful act you've brought in?
The most successful event for us is the CSSHL tournament. Yeah. That is the biggest driver in the biggest need. So it is a premium hockey tournament. It means so much to the restaurants and the hotels in March. I probably get more compliments or phone calls from motels and restaurants saying thank you so much. And we're trying to continually expand that. We're trying to get the East Academy schools to come. So that I can't understate how important that is. It is probably the number one event, I believe, in Penticton. It surpasses every other event that you can talk about. It's, in my opinion, it's bigger than Ironman, way bigger than Ironman. It's way bigger than them all. It's like 13 days, 3,000 people. It's crazy. Yeah. So
this is the Canadian Sports School Hockey League Championship you're talking about. Yeah. It's about 80 teams this year. Something like that.
And it looks like we're going to get the East coming. Yeah. Would mean like another 30 teams. Okay. It would be the biggest hockey tournament in the world, and it would be like 17 days. It would be huge, huge win. And so kudos to our team. Kudos to the Okanagan Hockey Group, the Academy schools. It really shows well. Yeah. But the fun stuff like concerts and events. I mean, Cirque du Soleil always does amazing for us. It's not just one show. It's 5 to 8 shows sometimes. Yep. Concerts have been, food and beverage always with the big rock shows or the young country shows. I think Florida Georgia Line was massive for us, and Eric Church was massive for us. Sales wise for seats or the number of patrons, and then the food and beverage per caps. The metal shows, which of course I'm a huge metal fan, so that's why we see so much metal here. It's all for me. But the metal fans, we've got a huge following, a lot of people that genre will come, stay in our hotels, in our restaurants. I love that day because you always see everybody wearing black walking around town. It's cool. And so our F&B per caps are pretty high on the metal days. Yep. And then I think the highest number of tickets we've sold or had in our building was Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld was I think there was, probably not, hopefully, Larry, he's not listening to me, the fire, inspector, but I think we had 7,000 people in the building. Yeah. So it was huge. Yeah. Huge, yeah.
I totally forgot about Seinfeld being here. That's just one of the big acts.
Yeah, it was so cool. And and very iconic. And,
Yeah.
you grew up with that every day watching it, on TV and Thursday nights. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So.
The Deep Fryer podcast is presented by the South Okanagan Event Center right here in Penticton. We have a free pair of tickets to give away for every episode this season. Upcoming events include the Penticton Bees playoff games, Blippi, the Wonderful World Tour on May 19th, TLC and Shaggy Hot Summer Nights Tour on July 15th, Bonnie Raitt with special guests Royal Wood coming September 22nd, and Skid Row and Buck Cherry on October 10th. Check out our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter for details. Or pick up tickets directly at valleyfirsttix.com.
Okay. Is there any acts or genres you wish you had back, or that you've said, okay, we're not going to do that again?
I mean, we haven't done as much country as I'd hoped, like American country.
Yep.
I'd like to do a lot more of that.
Yep.
And it's blown up in the States and the festivals.
Yep.
And so it's really trying to pick those off. But the American acts haven't spent as much time in Canada.
Yep.
When they would tour across Canada, they would, 17, 19, 23 days.
Yep.
Now it's like 10 days. So they're hitting the majors and 1 or 2 markets and they're out.
Yep.
And hopefully that changes once that, like I told you, that American presidential election cycle actually starts in the United States.
Yep.
You'll see those acts hopefully tour internationally, which will include us.
Interesting. I want to go back a bit to COVID, post-COVID. You got through the pandemic, of course, but how did the landscape change at all during COVID for venue operators like yourself?
Yeah.
How did it change?
Well, I mean, I think we constricted all of our staff.
Yep.
That was weird. And then there were lots of businesses that were very successful during COVID, like some of the box stores, hardware stores, construction, like all these kinds of things were very successful. So the staff that we may have laid off, or even the part-time staff that we got rid of because we didn't have events, they were soaked up by the big box stores who were expanding, or or they got busy working on their other careers.
Yep.
Then the people that we had to keep in the building just to maintain operations and a little bit of marketing, and they were in demand. So, it was a real difficult situation. Like you've got this constricted budget, but you've got people trying to poach your staff, and so yeah, that's probably been the weirdest thing, is the poaching of the staff and the lack of staff and trying to get back up, and then all of a sudden we start back up and everything's so much more expensive.
Yeah.
And then we don't have enough materials or supplies to start. Like, supply chain issues has been a problem for us. Like, the first things that were cut out of our budgets was capital improvements. Yeah. We're just going to hold the line. We're not going to, we're going to tidy and neat everything up, but we don't know how long this pandemic's going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be like 90 days. I didn't think it would be like, 700 days. And so, when you go to order these products, a great example is, some of the sinks in our building are getting to a certain age, and there's a certain somebody in Penticton who likes, that complained about it. But I didn't like, what they don't understand is that the replacement sinks, we couldn't get them. Yeah. And if they came into town, or they came into the Okanagan, there might only be 20 of them in town. Well, I only might be allocated 5 of these sinks. So I was replacing, whether it's the faucets and the sinks throughout the town, but at the end of the day, we just couldn't get enough stuff to do all of our repairs. So that was weird, coming back out of that. Like I said, the American acts weren't touring internationally as many days. Certainly the some of the promoters that we work with, they constricted staff. Mm-hmm. And so there was little companies that branched off. Yeah. So Live Nation let a few people go, and they formed another company or another, so it was, and you had, the consumer confidence.
Yeah.
Like that's really scary, and all the rescheduling that went on, and how easy it is for an artist now to cancel a show.
Yeah.
It's not really this massive backlash. It's like, oh, people accept it, but
Yeah.
so now you're getting this last minute type, ticket buying.
Yeah.
And you're getting some of our boutique promoters that have been exceptional partners in Penticton,
Yeah.
not really excited to come back. Just generally speaking, jumping back into a business that's lost a significant amount of confidence.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we're back into building our reputation. And the one thing that is going to hamper us for a little while is, when it comes to consumer confidence, you're going to, if you're promoting shows and you're touring shows around in Canada and you're not spending as much time in Canada, guess what? You're going to the biggest communities, and that's it. You may not be going to the best buildings.
Yeah.
You may not be going to the best run buildings or the best marketed buildings.
Yeah.
You're just simply looking at the population map and going, we're going here. Yeah. And so we had a tremendous relationship or reputation for selling shows well, making people money. And I think those things are a bit secondary and tertiary now, where the primary driver is there's 200,000 people in Kelowna, and there's 36,000 people in Penticton. And so, I'm not making excuses, but we've got to build ourselves back up to create the confidence, not only with our consumers, but the promoters and agents. And it's been a kick. They've kicked us pretty hard.
Yeah. Is immediate once things open up though, did you have see this pent up demand for shows and for artists to play shows? Or wasn't it?
Well, there was a number of things that happened where it's like that 80-20, but maybe it's more like a 75-25% rule, where 25% of our fans just did not come back. 75% came back. They were really excited to be back. But again, you're talking, we were down, 25% in attendance. I think that losing certain key people in the industry, like the sound and lighting people, those specific people that, were on the road for the last 30 years and have made good money and have not really spent it. They have this hobby farm somewhere in California or Oregon that they've never been to. And then they've been forced to go and, go to their farm and spend 2 years there and realize that it's paid for. And why would they go back out on the road? And when they can just go down the street and do a gig, at a festival for 30 grand, because they're begging for these people to come and help. So the industry lost quite a few experts. And so if there was pent-up demand, there wasn't enough people to get them out on the road.
Interesting.
So, and the restrictions, areas where, where if it was a red area, I sort of, or a right-wing area, the attendance has come back gangbusters. If it's a blue sort of liberal area, not so much, because there is this confidence that's not there that things are absolutely safe. So we see that with our counterparts in the United States, where the buildings in the specifically Republican areas have come back like massively.
Interesting.
Massively.
I'll take you back. You talked about some of the shows you book, wanting to get more American country. And what have you learned about the South Okanagan's musical tastes in your tenure?
Certainly we got to do more family shows. Like the demographic has changed. There's a lot more younger families. So, I mean, when I first got here 20 years ago, like that wasn't the case. But, tried and true is, classic rock and country. That's what works. Now, again, 20 years ago, metal didn't really sell, but the metalheads now are much older, and they're like, so they want to relive their childhood. So we do see that. So, metal, classic country, country, classic rock, those are still the things that sell for, I would say, we can do some folk stuff, especially with Penticton. It's got that kind of,
Yeah.
bohemian vibe kind of
Yeah.
from here to the border, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, that still works.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty cool actually to work in Penticton, and it's a great opportunity to do some cool things. So.
Yeah. Is there ever an urge to just take a shot on some artist who's really outside the box and just say, damn it, let's see what happens?
Yeah. I mean, it is right up until you lose $100,000 and the city manager or the city mayor is breathing down your neck. But and our councilors and our mayor have been tremendous supporters. They've done an amazing job. So has our city staff and the people that I report to. So they've been really supportive, generally speaking. But yeah, I mean, like you'd love to take a flyer and throw around some money and see what happens and see if you get some big artists to come in here, like an AC/DC or like a Bruce Springsteen. Like I think we were pretty excited, for Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really disappointed that didn't happen. I thought that was, he sold out in like 10 minutes, and I thought it was going to be like the best night, ever, and it just didn't happen. And so that was like really difficult for us, because that was kind of that was going to be the moment, I think, for us.
There was an era, maybe 20 years ago, when there was a website called The Smoking Gun that published all the artist riders, and it showed the crazy rock and roll demands, like red M&Ms and things like that. Do you still have riders in the business?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That is certainly still a big part of our shows, the show days.
Yeah.
It's more of a big part the days leading up to the show, because we have a couple of, shoppers that work for us that got to get in the vans and drive around and find all this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's still a big part of it. It's not quite what it used to be. Like it's not the drinking that would go on and the drugs that would go on, 30 years ago. It's nothing like that anymore. Like, it's smoothies and blenders and organic this and organic that. Like, we've had some weird ones, like Barenaked Ladies back in the day wanted a dog. They wanted a dog at like 2:00 in the afternoon for somebody to take for a walk. Like you got to find a dog that's not going to bite the guy. And so I mean, I knew a couple people that had really sweet animals. And so like, here I am begging them to bring their dog and like handing it over to somebody, and they're like walking around. So that was pretty bizarre. And then we've had some real weird ones, like, and I really won't bring their names up, but like, you look in the media and this person's getting arrested, and you're like, oh, okay, well that makes a lot of sense from some of his rider requests and how they sort of described how he wanted it to be served to him, and you're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Okay. And there's a sort of unrelated to this, but also in the sports entertainment genre, there's a small wrestling promotion called Thrash Wrestling, and I've heard that you've appeared at least one show as a Vince McMahon type villain. Any truth to this?
Well, I laughed when I saw that when you sent that to me as an email. A question is, I mean, I'm a huge wrestling and sort of like monster truck live event person.
Yeah.
Wrestling is such a spectacle, and monster trucks is so loud and so crazy. I just love it. I love when it's in a building and a quiet, And to do our local promoter, the Thrash Wrestling, it's sold out at the Trade Center, and we were so excited because it had sold out. When we were really helping them with marketing and trying to give them the best deal possible at the Trade Center. So we were all there. We were all watching it, like all my whole staff and my crew, and like. And I'm the only jerk with like, a suit on, like I got a suit on and, $500 shoes, and, like a custom shirt, the guys, they're looking at me going like, who's this guy? So I stuck out like a sore thumb. So they dragged me into a little bit of a scene, and had my, my shoe up, and it was pretty funny. Okay. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Any repeat appearances planned?
No, I mean, certainly if they're going to come back to the Trade Center, which we hoping that each and every year their WrestleMania is going to be in our building.
Okay.
And so we're going to promote them and provide them as little expense and as much opportunity to make some money so that they can always come back and for sure I'll dress up in my monkey suits again so I can help them out for sure.
Those are guys, Thrash Wrestling, they used to do the Portuguese Hall, the Legion, stuff like that. So they're kind of building up to a bigger.
Yeah.
So do you see a lot of acts like that or promotions like that? Do you work with young promoters?
I mean, I think, going back to population and, our community's smaller, and like we really do have to focus on special events and building events. Like that is something that if you've got Throwdown, that was something we helped birth. That was an idea that came from our offices.
This is the CrossFit games.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the one thing that is probably one of the best things about our employees and Oakview Group and professional management is that we understand that in Penticton, special events is what drives the economic impact. What's happening is the local organizing communities, they're aging out and it's too much work. And so you're going to lose some of the special events. So unless you have a professional organization like ours, which we will take over the organizing committee part of it, and we're going to help obviously run these things. So we have a bit of a mandate with our employees to get involved. Like we got people involved in Peach Fest, or we want people involved in all these things so that we can help keep these things going because we can be the local organizing committee. We're the local organizing committee for the CSSHL tournament and, for the RV show originally and like all these things. So that's our job. We want to do that. We want to continue that. We want to make sure that the special events keep happening in Penticton.
Okay. Final thoughts, calls to action, any shows you want to plug in the near future?
Well, certainly, we've had George Thorogood on the books for, 2 years now. It's been canceled and rescheduled. And I would love to see everybody come out to that show. It's going to be an incredible rocking show. It's at the Trade Center. So it's going to be like really intimate and really rocking. So you want to have a couple good beers and a couple good times. It's going to be lots of fun. I mean, I'm certainly going to be there. And then I hate to say it, but our kids show Blippi is almost sold out. So there's not many tickets left. And Bonnie Raitt had such a good the Grammys. And she had such great media from the Grammys. It just blew up. So I think when I looked today, there was only 100 tickets left.
Wow.
And we've opened up the stage, moved the stage back. So but there will be some announcements. I think there's an announcement next week and then the week after. Some cool shows that are going to get announced. And we're excited for them too.
Dean, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Awesome.